The cars Australians are buying tend to be less efficient, producing more emissions per kilometre compared to Japan, the EU and the US. And aside from a pandemic dip, emissions in the transport sector are climbing, a statistic that's incompatible with a net zero future. The fastest way to bring emissions down is to swap combustion engines for batteries.
And we know the demand for electric vehicles has been increasing substantially, but the real problem at the moment is absolutely supply.
But the road to decarbonising Australia's petrol fleet is long. And right now, Australia's barely on the on-ramp. Last year, hybrid and battery electric vehicles made up about 3.8% of new car sales. That's a big annual growth in sales from a low base. And because people tend to hold on to cars for a long time, the Electric Vehicle Council estimates at the end of last year there were about 83,000 electric cars on the road. That's about 0.5% of all cars. Countries like Norway have already got their pedal to the metal. It's the global leader. At the end of 2021, a quarter of cars on the road there were electric. Many of the rest of the Nordic nations follow. China's reached at least 3%. About 1% of New Zealand's cars are electric, along with the US. And down here, that's Australia, left in the dust.
We're about a decade behind the rest of the world.
The government wants to make electric cars more attractive here through new rules for efficiency. That is, limits on the emissions produced by cars on the road.
They don't mandate that you have to get rid of your ute. They don't mandate that you have to get rid of your diesel car. They don't mandate the sort of car that you have. What they do is they provide an incentive for car manufacturers to send their latest and cleanest vehicles here into Australia.
The standards would apply to each car manufacturer, which would have to ensure the vehicles they sell meet a certain average threshold of fuel efficiency. That averaging means they can still sell gas guzzlers, but to offset that, they'd also need to sell enough low-emissions vehicles. If they don't, they pay a penalty. And then, over time, the standards get ratcheted up, pushing more people to low or no emissions alternatives. Fuel efficiency standards aren't a new idea, and they've been the subject of fierce debate. The Gillard government first announced fuel standards in 2010 to come into effect 5 years later. But the Abbott government didn't go ahead with it. They were recommended by the Climate Change Authority in 2014. When opposition leader Bill Shorten proposed fuel efficiency standards in 2019, Prime Minister Scott Morrison declared,
"Bill Shorten wants to end the weekend."
Anthony Albanese dumped the policy in 2021. But now it's back on the agenda. While Australia argued, the rest of the world went ahead. Almost all countries with higher electric car sales have fuel efficiency standards. In fact, vehicle emissions standards cover more than 85% of the world's car market. While the government has committed to them, the details are yet to be worked out. The targets, the ambition, and the penalties for car makers that fail, that's all out for consultation. Advocates say we should meet or even beat the standards set overseas.
So if that's not what these standards do, then they will be in the same position where we are now, where we're at the bottom of the list when it comes to new technology vehicles.
The opposition says it'll assess the detail when it comes and wants a balance between technology-driven emissions reduction, maximising choice and minimising costs. The numbers the government settles on and can navigate through the Parliament will help determine how successful the policy is and how cheap electric cars get.